Welcome to Write Your Book in a Flash with Dan Janal, the only podcast where you'll learn how successful people just like you have grown their businesses, expanded their influence, and made more money by writing a book. On each episode, you'll learn the inside secrets to help you create a book that can serve as a powerful marketing tool to skyrocket your business. I'm your host, Dan Janal. I help thought leaders, business executives, and entrepreneurs write their books. To find out more, go to writeyourbookinaflash.com. Now, let's welcome today's guest, Lisa Tenner. How are you, Lisa?
I'm well, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be with you again, Dan.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. You have a new book coming out specifically to help authors tap into their inner souls and get true to themselves and really show what they're all about. Tell us about that book.
Thank you, Dan. Well, it's called The Joy of Writing Journal. Spark your creativity in 8 minutes a day. And that says a lot about what the book is. It's really to help you get writing and do it for 8 minutes. And often once you're writing, you'll do it for longer.
Fantastic. What does research say about how journaling affects creativity?
So the research shows that journaling actually helps you get past that inner critic or that censor. And that's so important because when we're in that censor mode, we're not creative. And, it gets us stuck or keeps us stuck. And when we can get past that, that's when writing really flows and the creativity is moving.
Well, that is so interesting because I've tried journaling at times, and I guess it's that inner critic. I never heard that voice before, that word before, but it's so true. It's like, do I really want to write this? How am I going to write this? I'm not talking about my creative writing or my fiction writing or my nonfiction writing. I'm just talking about like interpersonal stuff that you see in a journal. Can't do it. Just can't do it because of that inner critic. So I'm sure having that information will really help people get through their little roadblocks.
Yeah. And, another thing that journaling does and the research shows is that it relieves stress. And as you know, when we're stressed, it's much harder to write and to access that creative flow again. So relieving stress is one of the most important things we can do when we want to write, and journaling is one of the ways that we can access that.
Fantastic. Can journaling help authors overcome self-doubt, or what some people call the imposter syndrome, or build their confidence?
Yes, yeah, in a number of ways. One is that by creating a non-judgmental space to explore things and write, you can let go of that, that sort of, again, it's kind of a self-critical thing that goes on. So it's the intention of journaling already helps us get out of that critical space. And then also, if you don't feel confident, if you journal and you create a regular habit, as you can with the Joy of Writing Journal, then it gives you confidence that you can produce material. And the more you journal, of course, and the more you write in general, that's more practice. And you'll, even if you come up with 100 things you're not crazy about, eventually you'll hit on things you love. And that, of course, also gives us lots of confidence.
Oh, definitely. How can someone who isn't disciplined write daily?
So a number of things. One is to schedule it in your calendar and use an alarm so it lets you know when it's time to journal, and really treat that as sacred time, that you're not going to just schedule other meetings or other things during that time. And then another thing I love to suggest is create an inviting space for writing. So that will help you look forward to it. And then I would say, you could also have an accountability partner. So somebody that you might plan to write with. You can even get on a Zoom call together and just do your writing at the same time. You can work through the Joy of Writing Journal together too.
How can you create a safe space or a creative space for writing? What would go into that?
I'm sorry?
You talked about creating a comfortable space for writing. Is that the word you used?
So how do you create an inviting space for writing? So I would say,
Yes.
I would say, sometimes it's having like images around that inspire you. Some people will light a candle. It's sort of like that creative muse likes when we do special symbolic things for it, I think. So it might be like having I don't know, some inspiring piece of artwork, or if you love owls, maybe it's this little, icon of an owl that you put near your computer. But just little things that inspire you. And then also for many people, I think having a clear space is helpful. Personally, I don't need that. I'm a mess maker, and I can create the mess. But I think for a lot of people, it is helpful to have a clean space. And one of the things I love is creating outdoors. So writing or journaling outdoors, because nature, I think, just puts you in a great mood to write and be creative.
Yeah, definitely. I can agree with that. How can journaling help authors clarify their goals or their thoughts?
So one thing it can help you do is to experiment and explore, because you're not putting your pressure on yourself like, oh, now I'm writing a blog post, or now I'm writing a business plan. And those things tend to sometimes not completely shut us down, but there is more pressure there, right? But if you're saying, oh, I'm just going to experiment and explore, and actually when you get into that nonlinear space where you're not even trying to focus on a particular challenge or a business challenge or a book that you're writing, that's when new thoughts come in, and creative thoughts that can actually improve what you're working on. And, it might be like, oh, wow, what if I went in this direction? So it can be a wonderful addition to your actual book writing, is to use it in that experimental way. And of course, also, if you're journaling, you've journaled for your 5 minutes or 8 minutes, and now you're in that writing space, why not just work on your book? You're already in that creative flow. So that can be helpful too. And then, of course, in your mind, ideas and goals and plans can sometimes feel amorphous or overwhelming. But once you put that thought on the page, it helps you to start to organize it. So that can also be really helpful for an author.
Super, great ideas. How has journaling helped you in your life?
A lot of ways. I would say I've been journaling since second grade, when my grandmother gave me a journal, and it was for my birthday. And I said to her, what should I write about, Grandma? And she said, oh, go outside and write about the flowers. So my very first journal entry was about the yellow and purple crocuses that I saw on my way to school. But journaling has helped me solve the biggest problems in my life, I would say. And, I can think of one time when I had quit my job as a nonprofit director to have my first child, but I did need to still contribute to the family income. And I really didn't know what my next step was going to be. And it was very stressful. We started to go into debt, and I journaled, and the journaling actually helped me. It helped me write this book that then led to becoming a book coach. And it helped me explore things that led to this career that I absolutely love. And one that I didn't even know existed. So I think sometimes journaling can lead us to this territory that is beyond what we know or even imagine outside of that journaling space. It's pretty powerful. It has been for me.
Wow, that's amazing. And of course, you remember your very first journal entry from a few years ago. So that's always pretty cool. Yeah, it's funny what we remember as kids. Who is the Joy of Writing journal for, and how can it help them?
So the Joy of Writing journal is really certainly helpful for people who want to write a book or want to do some writing, or are already journaling and thinking they'd like some guidance or something that can carry them to a new higher plane, I guess, in their journaling journey. But it also is for somebody who's read about the benefits of journaling and wants to just explore it. And it can help in lots of different ways. But I would say there's this wonderful feature of the Joy of Writing journal, which is before you even get to the writing prompt each day, there is this opportunity to watch a video. Each video is different each day, and you scan it with your phone. You scan this little code, this computer-generated code or a QR code. Just hover your phone over it, and voila, this video will play on your phone. And a lot of them are just different writers or authors responding to the prompt very briefly, but they are so much fun and so uplifting that I find you watch these videos and you're just going to be in this awesome space when you start to write and start to journal. And even if you then work on your own book from there, it'll just put you in this great space. So especially during COVID, I think it's a really nice way to feel connected to people because of the videos, and to access that creativity in kind of a new and unique way.
QR codes. Wow, Lisa, you're such a millennial.
Hardly.
I know that that's one way that your book is different from all the other journal books and prompt books. Are there other devices you have in your book that sets your book apart from others?
I think that's the biggest one. There are a lot of times you'll make a list before you write, and there are some other journals that do that. But the reason I do that is because when you make a long list and then you get the prompt, you can choose from that list. So if the first thing that came to you is not inspiring you, you've got like 5 more or 10 more that you can look at and choose from. And I think that's very powerful. And then when you're done with the journal after 30 days, you can actually go back and look at those lists and generate a lot more material. So this journal keeps on giving.
Great. What are the biggest challenges to writing a book or any other creative project? And how can our listeners overcome those challenges?
Biggest challenge, I think, for most people is time. And of course, now, some people have more time on their hands than they wish they could have. But for many people, it's still hard to find the time to write. Even when you have more time on your hands, it's hard to actually make the time. So one of the benefits of the Joy of Writing journal is that you write for 8 minutes a day, and you could even decide to write for the same 8 minutes every day. I'll always write at 8 in the morning, or I'll always write in the evening before I go to bed. So, again, I mentioned scheduling in your calendar, and that's a great way to make sure you make that time. The second biggest challenge, I think, is that people don't know where to start. And so, as you and I both know, outlining can be a really powerful tool for that. And sometimes journal prompts can be also a powerful way to tap into, again, that piece that you maybe didn't know about, something creative that never struck you put in your book, but then journaling helps you get there.
I'm sorry, did I cut you off? Go ahead.
I was just going to say sometimes it's hard to get in the mood. Sometimes we're like looking to be in that mood. And again, I was looking for a way to help people just access that mood quickly and easily. And I feel like those videos really help with that.
Super. That's great. I'm wondering, do you suggest that people do their journaling with a computer and typing, or by writing in a book or loose papers, or does it matter, or is it based on people's individual preference?
That's a great question. So personally, I love the handwriting, and I do think there are things that happen when you're writing by hand that connect with certain neural networks in the brain. I don't know all the details of it, but I think it can put us in a generative and innovative space. But a lot of people, do their journaling by typing. A lot of people do their writing by typing, and it can be very creative too. I think once you create those grooves for creativity, then your unconscious or your subconscious just knows, okay, here's where we're going, and it hops along for the ride, and you're good to go. So I think it's more about creating grooves. And for me, definitely the handwriting works really well. But I know people who journal on a computer and it works for them. So yeah, try it both ways and see what works best for you.
Great. What advice do you have for someone who wants to write and feels stuck, or wants to more consistently get into a creative state of flow?
I would say breathe and move and relax. Often we think that in order to write well, it's about thinking. But in fact, it really is about like that embodied being. And when we're in our bodies, we're breathing, we're feeling our emotions and feelings, that's going to bring out the best in our writing. And so I like to, in my Get Your Writing Done program, for instance, twice a month, we start our calls with movement. We start our calls with this gentle bouncing, and we do some breathing, and we might do a little bit of other stretching or movement. And it really helps us get into our bodies where we're more connected to our hearts and we're more connected to, the emotions and even the memories that we might be using, whether we're writing an anecdote in a business book or we're writing a memoir. Those memories are going to be powerful, and the more we can make them alive for our readers, the more the better the book will be, and the more powerful it will be for our readers.
Wow, that's great information. Lisa, who is your ideal client, and how can they get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. I'd say my ideal client is often somebody who wants to write a book proposal for a prescriptive book, so self-help or how-to kind of book, or somebody who wants coaching to have that whole package that a publisher is going to be interested in, right? So if they're looking for help also with their platform or reaching people, that's another piece that I often bring to the table for them. And I love books that are about well-being, and they can be a little bit spiritual. Those are areas that I love as well.
Great. And how can people get in touch with you? What is your
they
website?
Can email me, lisa@lisatenner.com. My website is lisatenner.com, and it's lisatenner.com. I'm also on Twitter, Lisa Tenner, and Instagram a little bit, LinkedIn. So find me wherever you'd like to, but email's the easiest.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Lisa.
Thank you, Dan. It's such a pleasure. And to everyone, I wish you lots of creative energy and flow as you work on your books or whatever projects you're working on.
Thank you for listening to the Write Your Book in a Flash podcast with Dan Janal, the only podcast that shows you exactly how people just like you have built their businesses by writing a book. If you'd like to write your book but don't know where to start, you can find great information at writeyourbookinaflash.com. If you're ready to take your next step to write the book that can transform your business, I invite you to schedule a free, no-obligation consulting call with me by going to writeyourbookinaflash.com. We'll be back next week with another insightful interview to help you become a top business leader.